Journey Zephyr Wade-Hak, my partner on the Red Crime, that too, the red carpet.
Yeah.
As my cameraman, editor, producer, set designer, production designer, dialect coach, and overall.
We wear a lot of hats.
Yes, we
back
do.
There.
Yes,
yeah.
we do, and red bow ties.
That's when we can. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So these are called the Rose Wall sessions. As you can see behind us is a magnificent rose wall. And this is our second one. And that's because we're not in crime on the red carpet. At the Santa Barbara International Film Festival for the 10th year in a row, they're actually celebrating their 36th year in a row under the aegis of Roger Durling. Every year, the Santa Barbara International Film Festival awards virtuosos, young people, up and coming, superstars in their own right already, really. But sometimes we get a couple of them, it's their very first go at a movie and they're already nominated, such as Andra for Billie Holiday versus the United States. Phenomenal movie, phenomenal performance. And she was one of the 8 virtuosos tonight, interviewed by Dave Karger, who's been doing it for also 11 years at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. It's really fun in person, done at the Arlington Theater in Santa Barbara, California, that seats 2,000 people. And it's really quite an amazing event when all those virtuosos get together on stage and interact. So that part of it I missed. So the people that were interviewed today, this evening actually, in California, it was 6 p.m. Pacific time, and they were seated in their homes all over the world, and that was another interesting aspect of this challenging formula, is that getting everybody awake, and at the same time in Dubai the sun was rising, and in London and here the sun was setting, and we could see them all in their different living rooms or dining rooms or wherever they happened to be, which was intimate in a way, and they seemed to be more casual. Some of them were more dressed up than others, and that sort of thing, and I kind of starting to feel like I'm in the living room with them.
Absolutely, yeah. It had a certain intimacy in exchange for that theater experience you were talking about.
Yeah, so that's, I think, what I meant by I wonder how this year and the following year is going to pan out in the world of cinematography and theater. It's an interesting change, and it's a shift. I think it's going to stick with us a bit.
Yeah.
So the ones that were interviewed this evening by Dave Karger were, I'm going to do them in order real quickly because I'm limited by my producer here as to how much time he says millennials will look at something like this.
Yes, increasingly all of us.
But then, there are the film geeks out there. So right. What I did notice, though, this year, we're talking about 2020 when I say this year because these awards are for last year's performances, and most of all of these were last year, is that in general, even though we're going through a heavy time with the pandemic, most of these movies were really heavy topics, with the exception of Borat, naturally.
Yes.
Yeah, but the rest of them pretty darn heavy topics. Riz Ahmed is nominated for The Sound of Metal. In fact, they have 6 nominations. And we found out tonight that in the 7 months of preparation, he not only learned how to drum, but the American Sign Language, at an intricate level, at an advanced level. In just 7 months, he learned to do both. And the thing that struck him was that they were both a form of nonverbal communication. And I think that's astonishing when it comes to filmmaking, that the whole film is a level of nonverbal communication, because the scenes of the drumming are certainly as powerful as the scenes of when he is speaking and then when he does admit he's deaf. And what he learned about the deaf community by working with them was something also stunning. So I appreciated that. As hard as it was to watch, I think when I say these movies were heavy in nature, this was heavy since he was also recovering from an addiction, as well as at the same time having to admit he was deaf. And was the addiction because he was deaf? Was the addiction because he had a hard time admitting he was deaf and here his career is drumming? You know, and it's one of those conundrums. Have you experienced anything like that in your life where you learn a lot from what you're holding on to, what you're resisting?
Yeah, I think that's true for me and true for just about everyone I know. Probably, you know, that's part of being human is holding on to things and figuring out how to let go and when to hold on, and that kind of stop-go business of being alive.
Excellent, excellent. The second movie, of course, now was, of course, the most amazing, and that was Borat. What's the exact title?
Borat subsequent Moviefilm, I think.
Borat subsequent Moviefilm. Hilarious, and this is another thing I'm going to blow, is her last name, Maria Bakalova?
That sounds right.
Kind of like baklava, that nice sweet dessert. And she was a sweetheart. She was the cutest thing on this. It was like a Zoom meeting sort of a setting where we saw 8 people on the screen at once with Dave Carter, you know. And she was in the upper right-hand corner in her little house somewhere, and she dressed up, and she was trying her best to speak English. She was adorable. I often wondered, and I think she was asked this question, because she had to play opposite so many different characters in that movie that Sacha Baron Cohen brought. Of course, I don't know how he lives with himself. He lives with all those characters. It's remarkable the layer cake that guy is. And she had to respond to him in each and every different character in a different way. And I heard that the way she figured out how to respond to him was by the sound of his voice, because he would change his dialect a little bit, or the sound of his voice a little bit, and that was her cue to respond to that character. And here's someone who's just new at acting. What a challenging role she had. And like Roger Durling said, she stole the film from even Rudy Giuliani, never mind Sacha Baron Cohen. She's just so talented.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing more of her.
Absolutely. She's so gifted. It'll be great to see where this goes.
Did you notice how seamlessly she was able to respond to not only Sacha Baron Cohen, who, by the way, stayed in character during it 24/7. He never broke character. So she said that also made it a little easier for him. But did you notice how seamlessly, as a relatively new actress on the scene, she was able to just be in her appropriate character?
You really forgot that you were looking at an actress. You were just believing the story.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the thing all actors and actresses strive for, isn't it? Okay, then Kingsley Benadir was with us for One Night in Miami, produced by Regina King, having only 2 weeks to prepare for Malcolm X. And what he said, which was very interesting, I thought, was the fact that he had such short time to prepare for it gave him extra energy. Now that's very different from yesterday when we were listening, and one of the actors said that the strife and the tension on the set, that was Bill Murray, gave the movie Tootsie some aliveness. Well, you know, Dave Kirker's great, and he always asks people, how did you find yourself, or how did you arrive in the character? And this is how come we get some of this information about, well, it took him 7 months to do drumming and or American Sign Language, talking about rhythm. But Kingsley Benadir said he really only had 2 weeks, had to lose a lot of weight, had to get the dialect down, had to get his moves and his character down, had to research all the history about Malcolm X, and that gave him the energy to do it. So everybody approaches film from a sense of panic and fear? I don't know.
I imagine
stress and strife.
There's some of that in the mix. Yeah, it depends on the project and the person, but if you care about something and you're, you know, showing your rear end like that in some way, then you got to be a little scared.
Showing your rear end. I guess that's a quality of all these actors, because someone later on talked about being absolutely scared had a lot of fear. It wasn't
Mhm.
Andra Day. She was also awarded and played Billie Holiday in Billie Holiday versus the United States. Really important movie. Super talented singer in her own right, Andra Day is. And she actually said, fear is how I found one of the ways into the character. She really didn't want to do the film, and neither did the director want her.
Mhm.
So they were both afraid of each other. So there's another example of how fear led them to the place of risk. And is risk and fear and this whole concept where you come from?
As a documentarian behind the camera, I think it's a little bit different, but there's definitely, I have yet to meet someone who, whether they admit it or not, doesn't have some amount of fear and anxiety that they have to calculate with their lives, whether they work in film or in painting or whatever it is. So I think, it's always, you just try to work with that and work that into your process, and these were some exemplary cases of people really shining through that.
Indeed. So that was sort of the theme tonight, as a matter of fact, because when we got around to Sidney Flanagan, who I really didn't know, she was a surprise for all of us because we didn't anticipate, she wasn't named prior for press, and so it was a nice surprise to see her. She did never, rarely, sometimes, always. Very poignant movie. She's a first-time actress, also a musician, and she plays a young woman who's abused. Let me put it that way. And I found her very charming and very, very interesting, young, and understood that she was a character in a meme having to do with women's issues regarding their own bodies and their choices, because she's in a movie that where she's being abused sexually, mentally, emotionally, and keeps ending up pregnant, and because she's with an abusive person that she can't get away from. So that was another heavy movie, and what a risk she took.
Yeah.
As a first-time actress to jump into something like that.
I loved what she had to say about feeling like, if I understood her correctly, feeling like she was channeling some of the women in her life that she had known, and as well as her own experiences, and trying to bring a humane lens to that story. So,
exactly.
yeah.
Wow, so profound. Yeah, she's very interesting. It'll be interesting to see what she brings us next. Then, of course, right after that, it's Pieces of a Woman. Oh, one of the most heart-wrenching scenes is that opening scene that goes for 25 minutes where Vanessa Kirby chooses to give birth at home, her way, naturally, into a tub full of water, which is not uncommon, but a lot of people have done that in the past. And that, of course, this is probably not a spoiler alert, or maybe it is a spoiler alert, but the baby dies. And then the rest of the movie is everybody around her judging her, and then they end up in court, and it's heavy movie. But the acting done by Vanessa Kirby is off the charts, so very talented. And like Dave Carter said, it was a high wire act. What we find out from Vanessa Kirby tonight was that they rehearsed that entire scene on an iPhone the night before. Can you imagine rehearsing that scene? She said, we've seen a lot of death in movie and in life, but we've never really seen a film do the death of a birth. A baby dies at birth. We haven't seen that. And can then you imagine rehearsing that on an iPhone the night before? That's wild. That speaks to the technology behind all of this as well.
Yeah, it seems like a good way to get your blocking down without committing,
I guess.
Yeah, to a huge file size and all that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was stunned by that. I was really, really stunned by that. Let's talk about risk once again. Then the Mauritanian, We had Tahar Rahim, who's a remarkable, if you've seen him in The Eagle or in The Prophet and perhaps The Serpent on TV, remarkable actor. To prepare, he agreed to be shackled for 6 hours and waterboarded. Now that's the movie The Mauritanian. Everybody probably saw that as well.
I hope so.
Okay.
I need to see it. I'm not part of everybody yet.
Oh, you're so special.
Another thing I wake up every day and say into the mirror. That's good. Thank you, Lynn. But yeah, he seems like an absolutely incredible actor, and I'm excited I might go home and watch that tonight.
It'd be a good idea. And just in case you haven't, The Mauritanian is about Mohammed. Oh gosh, I'm gonna blow that name too. What is the man that was tortured in Guantanamo Bay for 14 years and charged with some vague crime that was actually tried in court. And of course Jodie Foster is the person who handles his case in the movie Mauritanian. But Tahar Rahim plays the, for the life of me, I'm sorry, I can't remember the gentleman's name, who was actually the real guy who was tortured at Guantanamo Bay. But I was blown away to learn that he asked to be shackled and waterboarded, and when someone asked him why, he says, I couldn't make the movie if I had been. Taking another risk.
Well, commitment to the experience he's trying to portray as well.
That's what it is. It's remarkable. Then of course Zendaya, the darling Zendaya, she and John David Washington are the only characters in this entire movie, and it takes place in their apartment, and it's just one argument for one night. And it's about their relationship, but the argument, of course, we delve into all the other undercurrents and issues in their relationship, and I'm sure all of us have had that same one argument all night long at some point in our relationships in life, right? Oh,
sure. Things have a way of becoming about everything.
That's right, and that's really what this is, but it's interesting because it's shot in black and white. And a heavy topic, but really an intricate, intimate topic. And the two of them were just alone in the room together doing this movie, put all their own money into it, and produced it together. And they said it was born of the pandemic because they did quarantine together before they made the movie, and once again it was in one room, and they were all alone together. So that was sort of like what we were doing. We're all quarantined watching them in one room arguing. This is sort of
it was a good time.
A good time. Yeah. Very, very funny. And she said they bonded in quarantine. And so I think overall, I started out by saying this has been a phenomenal sort of formula in terms of bringing us entertainment while we were bonding in quarantine all of 2020. So I think all these films, as heavy as they are, were part of that bonding in this unprecedented time. I think they had to be. I mean, of course we had some comic relief with Borat, but in general, the ones that are nominated for prizes around the world and have won everything so far, and these actors and actresses that have been involved in these, all brought us these really heavy topics. So in 2020, around the world, we're watching these heavy topics, quarantined alone or with other people. So to me, there's a thread there, a psychological thread, that, well, what else would you do if you're quarantined? Wouldn't you want to be sort of addressed in a way that would help you evolve, maybe on the deepest psychological levels, because we're going through so much psychological stuff as it is?
Yeah, I imagine this year especially, but any year, the best films, and I might argue the best art in general, novels, etc., will be about, sometimes there's comic relief, and there's definitely a place for that, but a lot of it is about looking squarely in the face of that suffering that you may be dealing with, and all the different forms that takes for different people. And if not making peace with it, then exploring it and understanding it a little better.
See, that's why I work with him. Thank you very much, Attorney Wade-Hak. I think that's a wrap.
Thank you everybody for watching, and please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, Lynn Fairley Media, and we'll be back later this week with a lot more coverage.
Oh yeah, and it's SantaBarbaraFilmFestival.org. So www.SBIFF.org. That's where you're going to find the lineup. That's where you're going to find the interviews that we saw tonight. They're going to be posted up. That's where you're going to find all these remarkable movies that are available to stream. Plus, they have two jumbo, for those of you in Central California, two jumbo screens set up at the Santa Barbara City College that's filmed, it's first come, first served, drive-in style, showing many, many, many of these movies that have come to us from around the world.
Very good. Thanks everybody. We'll catch you soon.
Ciao.